We had all the elements at this race. We had heat from a fight in the Xfinity race. We had water from the rain. And man, did we sure have a shitstorm at the end.
Hell yeah, Tex. And you know what? I loved every second of it. And I mean, this was a really good NASCAR race to watch. I heard it may have not got all the best reviews, but I sure liked it.
Yeah, well, the problem is we've had so many of these short tracks in a row that I think the viewers are getting tired of the same old thing day in and day out. I know we had a road course here a little bit ago, but then back to the short tracks, and we're gonna do it again next week. So I think maybe uh, NASCAR's got to play with the scheduling a little bit to keep fans engaged. But I don't know how you get more engaging content than the Xfinity race on Saturday. Did you hear about that?
No, I
If
did
you
not.
haven't, you live under a rock. I know you're not a social media guy, but this clip is all over the internet. It was on Good Morning America this morning. Um, it's all over the place. So let me set the stage for you. Great race so far. They're fast racing. It was a nice clear day in the midst of Richmond, Virginia, and Joey Gase gets wrecked by Dawson Cram. Just normal wreck, just gets in the back of him, turns him around, he goes into the wall. Not that big of a deal. But what you don't know if you don't follow the Xfinity series much is Joey Gase actually gave Dawson Cram his first ever Xfinity race start. He is a car owner and just, helping out the young guys and give them a chance to race. Well, he paid him back today by wrecking his old boss, and Joey Gase did not like that. So you know what he did?
Punched him in the face.
Nope. He gets out of his car right after he wrecked. The safety team's there trying to, pull his car out and get him into the safety vehicle to take off. You know what he does? He turns around, he grabs the back bumper of his car, pulls it off the car. It was already hanging there, and he throws it at Dawson Cram's car on his way around on the caution lap.
Bro, that's badass. That's
It was
awesome.
awesome. It was awesome, and it was a perfect throw. It went straight across his front, like, windshield. It was just perfect. The only thing that he could have possibly done better was get it inside the car, which,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not possible, but it was so great. It was perfect.
Any suspensions come out of that? That's awesome.
Not as of now, and, I have been hearing rumors that NASCAR may just give him a stern talking to, no fines, no suspensions, and this is why. Well, there's a few reasons why, but I want to hear your opinion on one. One, NASCAR kind of says, yeah, the biggest thing was don't walk back towards traffic on the racetrack. If there's cars coming by, that's a huge safety hazard for them. Don't do that. But he did get wrecked. He had tons of frustration. Joey Gase came out after the race and said the reason why he was so frustrated was, well, one, he gave that guy a start, but two, these these car owners at the Xfinity level and down, they have to pay every cent of that damage, and they're just scraping by every single week. And getting his car wrecked, he estimates it's going to be a little over $60,000, and he's got to spend that $60,000 just to get on the racetrack next week and hope that he can um, try to make a comeback. I mean, so I want to get your opinion on how do you go from the Cup Series, where these guys are multimillionaires with mansions and private jets and private yachts, to going down just one step, and you're just scraping by, not being able to pay your car payments. I mean, car payments between you and I are way different than these guys, but um, just paying to keep their sport moving and their career moving.
Yeah, I mean, you see that in a lot of sports too. Like, you just look at baseball, the minor leagues don't make anything. You just really are trying to prove yourself to make it to the top of the league there and actually go to the highest level in the sporting league. And I mean, you see that in NASCAR too. Even with all the sponsorships and everything, the car is expensive, and that's where they get you. So
They
if you
do
keep
get you.
wrecking every week, you got to pay your your pit crew, you got to pay all your crew, your maintenance fees on the car. It's a lot, and yeah, to be an up and coming driver and you're just gonna wreck someone for no reason, and you're costing maybe your career because of one minor, slip up, then yeah, I don't think the Cup Series owners are gonna like look at you and be like, oh, I want him because he's just gonna go out and wreck my car, you know?
Right. There was a lot of talk about Bubba Wallace in that way because as soon as he came to the Cup Series, he was wrecking a lot of cars. He was not finishing a lot of races, and um, I can't remember who it was, but his team owner had to come to him and say, "You know that when you wreck that car, you're not seeing that bill, and you're not responsible for paying for that, and you know we do that for a reason. I mean, we want you to race balls to the wall every week. We want you to go out there and risk it to win. But on the other hand, you're you're not finishing and you're costing all that money. So, um, you know, to risk it all for a 30th, that's that's not that's not very smart. And I think a lot of those guys that make that jump have to learn that right away. Um, but
Yeah,
I'm
I think
sure.
they come into like racing and they're the man. Like they get all the credit, win or lose, it all goes to them. Whereas the true fact is, I would say majority of the credit should go to the owner, the pit crew, who's designing the cars and everything like that. You could get almost anybody to race a car, but really to have a good team year in and year out, I mean, that's really with your owner and everybody on that team, not just the driver.
Yeah, and Dale Jr. is kind of trying to put a exclamation point on exactly what you just said. He gives a chance to a lot of these up and coming drivers that weren't going to make their way into the series probably otherwise, um, or just have a lot of raw talent that he just wants to give a chance to. And so what he does is he'll fund that car by going out and campaigning for a sponsor just for a particular race. So that way he can, let's say he gets Target. If he gets Target for, well, we're going to Martinsville next week, so let's use that as an example. Uh, he gets Target for Martinsville. Well, now he can go back and look at his not itinerary, Rolodex, and see who's out there right now that would be a good person to put up on a pedestal and give them their chance this week. And I think he's doing great for the sport that way. But these other guys aren't getting so lucky. They're paying every cent of that.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty cool too. Like you get your sponsor per race. So like if you have a sponsor like I don't know, a car insurance sponsor say, you could go out and get some like aggressive driver, and then you might be like, he's probably going to crash, but that's why we have Progressive as our sponsor.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know, something like that. You know what I mean?
yeah, you definitely could do that, but I don't know. I mean,
Just
it may
play into the
backfire when
driver a
you have
bit
to
more.
take your progressive car and get it towed off the track and basically junk it. It looks a lot
Yeah,
better when it pulls into victory lane.
that is true.
All right, well, let's talk about this race, and before we would get to who pulled into victory lane there, um, the big story right at the beginning of the race, we're starting in the rain. So this isn't pretty new for NASCAR. They've had rain tires for a little bit, they've had windshield wipers for a little bit, but to run on a on an oval track in the rain to start is pretty new. So everyone was learning as they went, and of course, there's brand new rain tires, just like we were talking about. I think every week we've talked about tires, and I spent a shit ton on them. Um, last week, but these guys aren't paying. All right. Anyway, so they start wet. They run about 30 laps. It was done raining, but it was still wet, so they wanted to keep the rain tires on. And after about 30 laps, they see that the track is pretty much drying out. There's still some wet spots, but it's drying out. And instead of letting the drivers make their own call about when to come in, when to pit, when to put on their slicks, they called a competition caution. So I heard two rumors about this competition caution.
What's that?
One, I understand. So if you so um when this race is going on, of course, the heat from the cars and the tires and everything, that's drying the track. Well, what's not drying during that time is pit lane. And so when you have cars come down pit lane and you have pit crews sitting out there and you hit the brakes and start sliding and you hit a person, that's when NASCAR is going to get all that heat for not calling a competition caution, getting your slick tires on, getting the pit lane dry. Um, so of course they took the safer route there. But how fun would it have been to see that strategy play out? I mean, those tires are going to wear out really quickly in the dry heat.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing they did call that a non-competitive, um, caution to get everybody on the same page. I could see how people could take that the wrong way. It's like, well, why don't you let it up to the owners, the team? They're paid a lot of money to do this. They could run all the strategies themselves, and it would make for a much more competitive race. You know, and I think that's something NASCAR is not the best at. Now you're going to gear toward safety and everything, so that's fine. But also, I think like Formula One, you can see everybody's tires. There's three different tires per race, and you can see who's running softs, intermediates, and hards. And there's different strategies to each one, like how many laps you can run on each one. Same thing when it's raining in Formula One. You have another three different tires. You have your wets, your all of those. So I think that's something NASCAR could do better and kind of for the viewers have different options when it comes to tires. I think, and then that also opens up for a lot more broad strategies too. And like, is Denny going to run hard to start the race and maybe lose some track position, but then he's going to finish up with softs and then get more speed and longer longer runs.
Yeah, that would definitely make a difference to add that extra strategy. Just something for the viewer. Um, but I think just even in the pure sense of when do you put on rain shoes or slicks, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and
I
that's I could
I know
see.
I'm going back to like the basics, but like I think it's so simple in this case. Like this race was the most ideal race that like to let that happen. Most races that are like this, it's either going to be wet the whole time or dry the whole time, so you don't get that option. This was the race. When it's dry enough, put
I
on the
can
slicks.
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, that was a long-winded, you know, argument to bring out Formula
No,
One and NASCAR. But I was going to go on and say, like, yeah, I want to see more NASCAR races in the rain. I think it's cool. Just have
yeah,
another set of tires that you
yes,
could, play strategy with. You don't have to force everybody to a certain tire and,
right.
do non-competitive, pits. So
Yeah. No, that's right. And I do think that adding like a second tire or even a third tire to just a normal racing day would be pretty fun too. But yeah, just in terms of this race, like I think it would have been more exciting if they did. So I said that there were two theories about why they stopped it, and I'm sure that was the main one, the safety. But I also heard that NASCAR does not like to run races where you have an extended period of green flag laps at the beginning of a race. And that's because when the most viewers you're going to see or the have on at the race on TV is going to be right at the beginning. And if you don't have some sort of excitement of a stop or something that's going to, just get you out of your normal routine, people change the channel. So if you have 40 green flag laps at, I don't know, an intermediate track, well, that's 25 minutes of just everyone going around in a circle. And if you're not really well versed in NASCAR, you don't know what to look at. You're just seeing the same thing over and over and over. People are turning that on for wrecks or something else that isn't normal. And so in this case, I think that played into their decision to call the competition caution. We went 30 green flag laps before they called this. Nothing was really happening. So I think that they made that judgment call to, throw in the commercials because, of course, NASCAR has to make money on their commercials. If you can get commercials out of the way right away, right at the beginning of the race, then you don't have to cut to commercial later on when it gets more exciting. So I think that NASCAR is playing a little bit of ratings game and a little bit of let's get some commercials in there when they make those decisions.
Yeah, I can see that. Also, though, like if they didn't force everybody into that caution, I feel like there could have been like a legit crash then, maybe causing like a legit caution. So I don't
Yeah,
know,
I think they have to balance it though.
but like, is it
Um,
unfair then at that point?
right, right. Is it unfair, or are you going to cause any harm to a driver? Like, of course, you want to. That was the whole idea of the next gen car was you can bump and grind and do whatever in these cars, and it's still going to be drivable. You're able to maintain control of that car, keep driving. You can wreck it, and you can stay in the race. That's the idea. Make it a more physical race. But when you call that caution, and there was a chance that you know, uh, you have less grip on like because of the tires you have, and you lock up and go straight into a wall head first. Like, that's when they're like, we should have made sure that they had the right equipment.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
And
see it both ways.
being one of like the first races in the rain, like they need to take the more precautious route there.
Yeah. I don't have a lot to say about the race, but along the same lines, I just talked about calling cautions and letting the boys race. Kyle Busch went up into the wall right before the second stage end, and was it right before the second stage end or first? I think it was second. Anyway, kind of just got loose, got up into the wall, rode one of the corners for a few seconds, and then pulled right back off and kept on driving. It was like 4 or 5 seconds later, NASCAR called another caution. I thought cautions were for when there's debris on the track or a car is hindering the path of another or someone's in danger. And everyone was still racing when the yellow came out. Even the announcers were confused about why it was called.
Yeah, I feel like they've been just really yellow flag hungry this year. I feel like they've been calling cautions at some really abnormal times that you would not expect. I don't know why. Maybe
I
again is
think
with
I'm going back. I'm
your
being the
theory.
conspiracy
Okay,
theorist.
how many beers have you had today?
I have this Canadian maple whiskey right here.
Oh, nice.
So I had a little bit of it. But anyway, conspiracy theorist. Anyway, I'm saying NASCAR needs to get more commercials in. I think the more commercial space they sell, like the more commercials you have to watch, and uh, if you can go to full commercial during a caution, then they're making more money than when you have uh to go to commercial during green flag laps and you go side by side picture.
Yeah, and I guess the more cautions, the more likely it is to get into overtime, and overtime races are a thrill to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So how about that
I agree. So
Truex little Denny incident there?
yeah, I actually listened to Denny's podcast today, and he kind of just played it off like, eh, it is what it is, and if Martin, you want to spin me every day, and I still come back and win it, then do it again next week. See you in Martinsville. So I don't really have a lot to say about that one. Do you have anything?
No, not really. Yeah, he just got the better end of it this past week. Denny did. So yeah, I feel like he was fine with it. But like if he got spun out and finished like 20, 30th, then I think he would have had a different
He would have had a lot to
narrative.
say. Yeah, I'm sure. So we won't go through too much about this race because we talked a lot about it. But of course, you have Larson showing up pretty big, getting a stage win and a third place. That was to be expected. That was my number one pick this week. Then you had. Wait, sorry. Wait, was
I
that my?
I had Kyle Larson.
Oh, yeah, I had these backwards. You had Kyle Larson, Danny Suarez, and Josh Berry. I had uh, Ty Gibbs, Ryan Preece, and Chris Buescher. Okay, so yeah, you had the better end of the stick there again. So for this is race number 7, and for the 7th week in a row, I believe you won. But anyway, yeah, Kyle Larson had a great race. Um, without that little hiccup at the end, Truex had a pretty good race too. Stage win in stage 2. Josh Berry got you a little bit of points to get second in stage 2, and of course, uh, for me, the story in the winner circle is Joey Logano finally kind of breaking out of his shell and coming back. He was sitting at 22 in the standings this year, and now gets a second. That'll help. It's not going to boost him incredibly, but I think it shows that he still has it. He's not having a maybe he is having an off start, but I would hope that that's not an off year, and he still has the equipment that will get him there. Um, and we know he's a great driver, so I like that for Joey Logano. You like him or you hate him, but as a I wouldn't say a legend of the sport yet, but as definitely one of the stars, it's good to see that he's going to be back in it.
Yeah, I've been itching to bet on him, and I can't find a good week to do it. But yeah, I hope this instills some confidence in him because I do want to see him back up competing.
Right?
But I was really impressed with the Hendrick boys this week. I knew they would be pretty good, but I didn't realize they would be like I think 3 in the top 10.
That's right. Yeah. Um, I
Especially
feel
Chase
like
Elliott. You got something.
fi-
You got some fight in him still, and then
finally,
I'm expecting big things out of him this upcoming week too.
yeah, yeah. I think you're right. I actually like a lot of the Hendrick guys again this week. Um, I've said it for a long time, but I like Larson, Elliott, and Byron. I am gonna fade Bowman this week. Even though he kind of showed up a little bit here last week. Um, third in stage 1, but yeah, I like those guys. Although we'll use that as a good transition into Martinsville. The Toyotas, I think, are key again.
Yeah, I think it's going to be about the same storyline as last week. And if you want to, keep making money on your betting, go stick with the Toyotas.
Yeah.
Um,
I actually, sorry, I thought of something else from the Xfinity race last week. The in the Xfinity race, there were 5 Toyotas, and the top 4 of them were Toyotas. The 5th didn't finish, but
oh wow,
yeah, I mean that's pretty crazy to have 5 in there and 4 be the top 4.
yeah,
So, if that's any indication of their short track racing across the board, I'm betting on Christopher Bell.
yeah. It's a definitely a good bet. Last week I think Toyota winning manufacturer was about minus 130. This week they slipped back to plus 120, and I think this is a no brainer to nail that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I
especially when
think
you have Denny coming off his second win of the year, and he's good at Martinsville. And then you have Christopher Bell and Martin Truex that should be right there in the mix. And then, of course, Ty Gibbs has had a good year. And so, I mean, I think that rounds out your top Toyotas. You can always um, So Bubba Wallace is hit or miss. I would sort of fade him on the short track, but um, he
He
did
had a pretty
have
decent finish. I think 13th this week.
yeah, and
He had
he
4 Toyotas in the top 10.
yeah, and he fought for first for a while. Right off of the competition caution, he fought for I don't know, probably the next 30 laps. Um, and he just couldn't keep it together the whole race to stay up there racing for a win. But um, I wouldn't fade him completely. But yeah, you have a strong showing by Toyotas coming up this week. But I went out on a limb. I chose my favorite driver for this race from each manufacturer, and I already said Christopher Bell was my Toyota, but um, and we alluded to the Hendrick boys, but one is Hendrick, who, if you could pick a if you could pick a Chevy in this race, who would it be to win?
Man, a Chevy really put me in a tough spot because Kyle Larson really showed up last week, and I want to pick him again. But I think Chase Elliott left a lot out on the track. I think he could show a little bit more. His car wasn't even the best, but he had a really good finish. And I think if they, tune up the car a little bit better, I think he could, perform really well.
Yeah, I think if nothing else of Chase Elliott, it's another one of those love him or hate him situations. If nothing else, he is a spectacular race car driver with a a gearhead like mindset. Like he's one of those guys that understands everything that's going on in his car and how to make it better. And he's got an awesome team that I mean, of course they take the lead, but to have a driver that involved in the day-to-day setup of your car and how to make it better, uh, I I agree with that. Um, I think having a good race could lead to having a great race the next week for him. So I
I
like
agree.
it.
Yeah, I mean, if I was being logical, I'd probably say Kyle Larson, but
Yeah,
I have high hopes for Chase Elliott, and I think he's really close. And I think this might be the week that might help, break the ice for him, maybe
yeah,
get a win this season.
yeah. I did go with Larson. I went with the safe pick just because he is a stud this season. He's just he's always right there. He's knocking on the door. If he doesn't break down the door, he's knocking on it. So and then with the Joey Logano comeback last week, I'm gonna take Joey Logano as my Ford. Um, and purely because I think he showed the promise that he's always had, but it's the first time he showed it this year, and hopefully that's just his breakout for the year.
Yeah, Fords, like I said last week, they're not the greatest, and I think you could find value in lower tier drivers in the Ford category. I don't know.
Like,
Well, Chase Briscoe, for instance, he had an okay finish last week, and he's been qualifying pretty well. So I think like one of these races might be his race to finish a top 10 and be the top four driver. I'm not saying he'll win it, but yeah, Logano threw a little wrench in my strategy as of late on betting Fords. So with that said, probably you'll see like a Chris Buescher up in the top Ford. Yeah, I would probably take Chris Buescher. He had a pretty decent finish last week.
yeah, I think it's a good pick. I mean, I wouldn't be spending my money on him.
I would.
um,
I'm not betting on any Ford until I see something a little bit better.
yeah, I'm not wasting my money on that guy. The only Ford I would put money on is Logano, but you know my track record this year, so um, yeah. So we're in Martinsville. It's the half mile short track. We're going 400 laps for 210 miles, so it's just over um, half mile. But this is where Ross Chastain had his video game move around the final corner to jump onto the podium. Of course, that move is banned now. You can't you can't do that. But you think this race is still going to bring some excitement like that?
Oh, I'm sure, and I like how they banned it, but every time there's a race here, they show the replay of it. So
I
it's
know.
like, yeah, it's banned, but this is the coolest thing that ever happens. So why are you gonna
Right.
ban it?
I know, that's horrible. It's like when, it's the same thing with those guys that wanna ban, like, fighting from hockey. Well, then you put on a playoff, like, hype up video, and half the videos are them just beating the shit out of each other. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, you're gonna criminalize or ban certain parts of the sport that make it so exciting and, um, get not only the fans, like, pumped up, but the drivers. Like
yeah, and if you think about like the roots of NASCAR, it's about driving cars super fast. It's about escaping the police, doing any type of maneuver to evade the police because you're running moonshine,
right.
and now you're just like making it safe.
Yeah, right.
Why are
Well,
you doing that?
yeah. I think it leads to the beginning of our episode, talking about giving the drivers something else that they could use to their advantage, like some sort of strategy, and I think most drivers wouldn't have the balls to try something like that, not because they would think it's unsafe, but because they don't think it would work. Like, maybe it works on a video game, but, um, it wouldn't work in real life, and I don't wanna risk the car for a reward. Like, are you gonna do that? Are you gonna
Yeah,
risk, getting a 10th place finish versus a, you know, 30th if, the wall just stops you? Like,
yeah. I mean, I think he did it at the right place at the right time. That was the last race before playoffs. I think so. That got him into the next round of playoffs. Um, I think if he did that in the spring race, he might get a little bit more backlash from the car owners. Like, why the hell did you do that?
yeah, could be.
But it's still
But
sweet.
it's
I
still
love
it still
rewatching
is
it
gonna
all the
go
time.
down as one of the greatest moves in NASCAR history.
Yeah, and
And
NASCAR viewership is getting lower and lower every year because you're just making it more boring. Stuff
yep,
like that is cool. It's fun.
right.
Like live a little NASCAR.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why I think, they're not gonna fine Joey Gase for throwing the bumper. Like, because that's what's on the news this week. That's
Yeah,
getting you so much popularity. When Ross Chastain rounded that corner, everybody saw that video. Everybody saw that video. And it's the same thing. You have to make storylines. The NFL doesn't have to do that because people are watching every week. A sport like this, they do. You see this happening in the WNBA right now. Caitlin Clark is about to get drafted. Well, if she doesn't take the Ice Cube deal, I don't know if you heard about that, $5 million
if I were her, I
to
would.
yeah. But anyway, you have the biggest storyline, in the sports in that sports history going down right now, and they're capitalizing on it. So they're bringing in all these other players and investors and everything. That's what NASCAR needs. They need something, capitalize on your storylines, let that stuff happen, and encourage that kind of stuff. Give them more strategy, give them more leeway to do these things. The the next gen car takes away even the strategy um, you can have by building your car a little bit differently. They essentially want every driver to drive the exact same car. I mean, that makes it the most fair, but does that make it the most exciting? When
Not at
lap
all.
when lap times are within a half second or a quarter second of each other, the entire race, that's not that exciting. But when you get a car that is driving 2 seconds faster than everyone else, um, and well, that's not very exciting either if it's a blowout. But
Yeah.
like, there
There's a
needs to be some
fine line. It's
variability.
hard, but yeah, there needs to be some variability and some, strategy involved that
Yeah,
you can separate from the pack.
right. I'm thinking about Lightning McQueen. You know when he was down in the Piston Cup and he had to make it back through like all these other cars. Like, the next gen car would never allow for that. You can't make up 30 positions and sit there in your pit box and talk to, have a motivational speech with your crew chief, and then still make up all that time.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not like the movies where you could step it into like ninth gear somehow
Right.
and just shred through the field.
That's right. So we're going to Martinsville. Martinsville the famous Martinsville hot dog. You know about this?
I do not know about this hot dog.
Well, that's because we haven't been there yet. Hopefully by the later on race, so not fall. Is it fall? Late summer.
Fall.
The second Martinsville race this year. Hopefully we make it out there. But if you go out there, order the Martinsville hot dog all the way. All the way means you're gonna get it the famous style. Mustard, chili, slaw, onion, all over that mother.
How
It's
big is this hot dog?
it's not that big.
It's
It actually looks quite
just a
gross.
chubby guy,
It's
short and stubby.
yeah, it's short, stubby. It's like the bun that you get at like your local grocery store for the 99 cent thing. It does not look good, but it is phenomenal.
Okay, so I'll,
Yeah,
I'll order 12.
yeah, they sell them by the box, so you can get a
Okay,
four.
bro.
They call it the box of four or the bag of eight. So you can get it in bulk. So
The
yeah,
bag.
yeah,
Can you give me a bag of hot dogs,
yeah.
please?
They call it the bag of eight, and it's cheap. It's $11 for eight.
Oh, that's really good.
I
Okay,
know.
I'll allow it.
Yeah. Yep. I think they're about $2 if you get them individually, but you can get eight for 11.
Man, that bag is probably so gross. I could
Yeah.
just think about that brown paper bag just being soaked in like
Oh yeah.
all the fat and oil and all that.
Yeah. Oh, could you imagine? I mean, we spend some of the grossest times at NASCAR races on the infield. We avoid showers completely. We're just sweaty, covered in beer, covered in rain, covered in your neighbor's sweat. Like, I don't even know what we do. Mud wrestling. I can't imagine being more gross than when what we already do, except if you eat a bag of those hot dogs and then have to go spend all your time in the porta potties.
Yeah. And that's probably the reason why people shit in the shower because they don't want to be on a
That
toilet in the grossness. They want to be like clean while
Yeah,
shitting.
right. That was the worst experience of my life.
Yeah,
I
not so fun.
No, no. Just sitting in that shower and like being so half dazed and hungover and lack of sleep and excited for the race that I just showered around a pile of human shit. It was so gross. All right, but get your Martinsville hot dog here. Get it all the way. Get your mustard, chili, slaw, onions on it, and you're gonna have yourself a good time. Preferably, probably get it towards the end of the race when you know you're gonna, get out to your own shitter pretty quickly. You want to draft?
Yeah, let's go draft.
Let's go drafting.
Drinking and drafting.
Drinking and drafting. All right. Well, I think I'm gonna take a shot for that. While you take your first pick.
Okay, well, like I said, you got the Hendrick boys and the Toyotas, I think. Those are the two favorites. I mean, how are you going to really bet against Denny Hamlin? He's
That's
going to go
true.
back to back, right? He has to go back to back.
Wow, it'd be a
Well, let me
hell of a
tell you,
start.
bud, I am not going to go with Denny Hamlin
Ooh,
because I am going double down on Chase Elliott. This is his comeback race for the first win in a year and a half. I don't know how long.
it's
Way too
he didn't
long.
win last year.
So Chase Elliott, number one overall pick. He better not disappoint.
Yeah, he's gonna need this. A very disappointing year last year. I don't know how many times we have to say it, but to solidify himself into the playoffs early would be spectacular. Maybe get him back into his rhythm because I think he spent most of the year last year just thinking, I got to try to catch up, catch up, catch up. That he couldn't get back in his groove. If he can get a win here early, he can go into the stretch here in the summer months, and kind of relax and try to get his rhythm back for the playoffs. I like that pick. I don't know if I think he's going to win this one, but I know that he would benefit almost more than anyone by a win. I already mentioned it, who I wanted to pick, but it was going to be Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell is, I think, going to be the fastest Toyota in the fastest manufacturer. It's the fastest driver in the fastest manufacturer. Um, put those together, you got Christopher Bell, top Toyota, top driver in the race.
Okay, yeah, I see Chris Bell. I don't know. He was good last week, but I don't know if I think he's going to be the top of the Toyotas. I think that's hard to press Denny Hamlin, like I said, and you just have so many good Toyotas this year. Go ahead.
No, you're right. There are a ton of good Toyotas,
and I think Truex has a chip on his shoulder, and I really want him to, maybe win this race.
I think we should side bet that. Me versus you, Bell versus Truex.
Okay, we can talk about that offline.
All right, because I don't think Truex got what it takes this week.
All right. Well, snake draft. You got the next one.
All right. Well, I tried to give this pick a lot more thought than I have in the past few weeks because the bottom half driver is usually what kills me. You can get a top driver in the top 5, top 10, and that's whatever, but then if you pick a bottom tier driver, I say bottom tier, what about back half? Back half driver, and he, gets in the 30s, that'll kill your points. So I gave it a little bit more thought today, and what I came about was I don't know what the hell I'm doing. um, but I am gonna take Austin Cindric, and that's because of his pedigree at these short tracks in different cars. He hasn't been in a cup car too very long. He's got one win in a cup car, but a ton of wins in other series, and a lot of those came in short track. So I think that it's his time to show that he's got the hang of these big cars in a big situation, big series against all the stars. So I'm going with Austin Cindric.
Yeah, Tex, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't feel bad for absolutely destroying you every week because you make stupid picks like this.
Ooh.
What has what has Cindric shown you in the past 2 years since his first win at Daytona to ever think he's gonna show up
He's
in
a
any
good
way?
guy.
Okay, well, I don't know. You left someone on the board, Eric Jones. He's a Toyota. Why is he getting no love? He's the best manufacturer by far. Toyota shows no signs of slowing down. Eric Jones had a finish in 13th place last week. It's not like he's like slacking in the 30s. And not to mention, Eric Jones has a lot of good top 20 finishes this year. He's been a decently solid driver. And for being a low tier, I think he's plus 25,000 to win the race.
He is.
Just bet on him if you want to. Just throw something on him. I don't know if he really has a chance to win, but like maybe get him a top 10. You probably have a lot of good odds there for that. So anyway, I will take Eric Jones because people are sleeping on him.
Okay. I will say who I left on the board, who I thought I might pick, was your back half driver last week, Daniel Suarez. He actually did have a pretty good race until he got spun out. So I would be really happy with a random pick with Daniel Suarez. And so maybe I am really stupid, but I at least thought of that. So with the snake or the snake draft, that means you would be the first random pick, and I am going to hit it right now. You got number 24?
24.
I'm pretty sure that. Oh, you're gonna be happy with this one. That's John Hunter Nemechek, the
Okay.
Toyota from Down Under. I don't know why I said Down Under because he is not Australian, even a little bit. Sorry, I just dropped my phone. Yeah, I don't really have a lot to say about him, but he hasn't had a great year, but he's young.
Yeah, he's young. I mean, you'd always do a little something. I
Yeah.
don't know a lot about them, but that's why we do the random drivers because it gets us, researching like who the hell is this guy?
Yeah. um,
Yeah,
yeah,
anything to
a Legacy Motor Club driver from Mooresville, North Carolina.
He's also a Yoda, so he finished 25 last week.
Yeah, that's true. So honestly, if he finishes top 20, then you're getting a pretty good deal here. All right, I'll take my random pick, and that is number 7. Number 7 is Chase Elliott, who's taken. So redraft.
Ooh,
That
that
stinks.
was a
That was a
good
great pick.
choice.
All right,
A cock
second pick.
blocker of a number one overall.
Yep. 21, Daniel Suarez.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Yeah, Suarez is like one of those, he's just a wild card. He could be really good. Sometimes he's racing well and just gets spun out, and sometimes he just races like shit. So I don't know. You never know with him. I don't like betting on him.
Yeah. You bet on him last week,
Yep.
but it didn't go that well. But that's the reason I'm betting on him. He did race well, got spun out, and which probably means he's not gonna have 2 good races in a row. But it is what it is. But anyway, I hope you had a great Easter, and I know you were out on the lake with some nice looking women.
Oh
That's
yeah, oh yeah.
that's always good. I went out to the beach. It was too cold to go out on the beach,
Do
so
some
spent a
betting
lot of
in
time.
Atlantic City.
Yeah, went to Atlantic City, did a little bit of
Nice, nice.
cha-ching cha-chang. I lost all my cha-ching cha-chang, and I am ready to drink. Gonna have ourselves a good weekend here. It's been a while since we let loose. We've had a lot of these holidays come up. I mean, I know that St. Patrick's Day is a drinking holiday, but I felt like I had to do a lot of family stuff these holidays on these weekends, and this one I am ready to let loose. We're not going to Martinsville. We're going to watch Martinsville, and we are going to. I don't know if it's going to be this week or next week. We're going to have our first special edition episode. We're going to have our normal scheduled episode, and either this weekend or next weekend, we're going to do a drinking and driving brought to you by the Drunk Bastards. So we're going to sit here and drink probably more than we should, responsibly though, in our houses. We're going to commentate on some of the things that are going on in the NASCAR uh, industry. Maybe watch a little bit of a truck race or whatever, commentate, but mostly just sit here and bullshit. Um, be a good time for you to come meet us, see who we are, and come just drink with us. We'd love to crack one open with you. And as always, we drink, they drive, and drink responsibly. We will see you either later this week or next week. Hasta la vista.
Yippee kayak.